Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode. Everyone's gathered trying to help Liz, but because of the dose that she got from the mist, it's, attacking her body the way it is. So Max and Isabel take a deep dive into her mind. Sadly, Isabel gets the boot while Max gets captured, and almost like that Friday the 13th type of situation. Oh, not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. You die in your dreams, you die in real life. In this particular case, if Liz dies in her dies while Max is in her mindscape, he will die too. And obviously, Rosa calling in Heath for backup. And I thought that was interesting. And especially that moment they had later on, I was like, wait, is Heath and Rosa a thing? I was like, oh, that's interesting. But it's like, oh, no, they're not a thing. Which, truth be told, is that I let that like creep into my mind. But I'm like, honestly, that would be weird if they were a thing, wouldn't it? Because it's like, I mean, him and their sister were a thing, so it'd be kind of weird for him to be with you. Yeah, I didn't even think. I was like, oh, that's it. It didn't even cross my mind to be like, right, they were together last season. Had sex a couple of times, so it's like would have been super weird and awkward to like be in that situation. But it's like no, Heath is just the one that she turned to when it came to understanding her abilities, because for one, she didn't want to turn to Liz for help, because it's like, right, I don't want to be the needy sister. I think it's also like, she also probably wanted her sister to just kind of live her life, and it's like, I don't want to end up, I didn't want to like, because it's like, right, you also have your brother, Kyle, who knows all there is to know about aliens. So like, she didn't want to like rely on everyone else too much, because like everyone else is living their lives, and she didn't want them to be worried about her when she'd admit like, hey, I'm lost. Like art school and everything, yeah, it worked out, but there's still a side of herself that she hasn't really fully gotten control of, and that's her alien side. She needs to learn about and have control over every aspect of herself, not just like the more like human nature parts, like understanding her abilities a lot more, because they are a part of her now. So there's that. Obviously, Isabel feeling down because she blames herself for not only what's happening with Max, the fact is that Kyle's not here to help, because the way she handled that whole situation, it's like, for her, it's like, no matter what I do, everything I do is destroy. Not only with Anasta, not only with Kyle, but now even with Teska. It's like, she became the way she did because of me, but Maria had to point out, it's like, stop treating yourself like you are less than what you are, Isabel. The fact is that if you had gotten captured by Jones, we wouldn't be where we are right now. We would have to be dealing with more than just Teska. I mean, for all you know, Teska would be where Isabel is, and Isabel would be where Teska is. I mean, she'd be just like Bonnie and Clyde specifically. More so Clyde. She'd probably be a lot more like Clyde, and kind of like what Teska was, after Jones got into her head and just kind of rummaged around and turned her into what he ended up turning her into. So, and I did like that line from Michael, who said, like, right, Maria is the only one who kind of kept her head, like, clear during this whole ordeal, because everyone else was kind of spiraling with their respective situations, because everyone was panicking. But for Maria, it's like, yeah, I figured it was time everyone else to kind of panic. Like, it was their chance. Like, it was up to me to leave everyone the opportunity to kind of like to spiral and kind of flip out, because Michael was ready to kind of go deep dive into the sinkhole just to save Alex. But it took Rosa reminding him, it's like, right, you jumping in without really a plan didn't work too well when you put me in a car and blew it up, right? So don't make the same mistake twice. Like, letting, like, yes, I get it, you love him, but don't love Alex, he's everything to you, but don't let that love cloud you from, like, you having no idea how to really help any of them, especially Alex. So, and at the same time that this is all going down, Liz is in her mindscape, and and it's all a giant metaphor for everything that she's kind of going through. Interestingly enough, she's sheriff now. She's like, Ford would have a field day with the fact that I'm sheriff of my own mind. She's like, that speaks volumes. And I love that her dad is, Deputy Machete. And the most she's like, nope, you're staying here, getting help from Rosa. And just like everyone that is important to her. I even love the whole like, get Kyle. I was like, I thought you were getting Kyle. I did get Kyle. And she's like, I don't have time to dissect the Freudness of this. The fact is that I turned my like closest friend and the person I lean on the most into a horse. But she says like, right, you've always been kind of like my rock, my steady steed. That you're like, okay, because he's always been that reliable person that has always kind of been a person she can rely on to kind of keep her steady, just like a horse would. So it's just, the metaphor is not lost on her, and just like the whole thing of just like, yeah, because she's like, I really could use the real Kyle right now, considering everything going on. Because at first it's like, because when Clyde popped up initially, I'm like, is that actually the real Clyde? But like, why would he know to come after Liz now? Because we know he needs Liz, just like, because Teska made that clear that, oh yeah, because also Liz has no idea about her student getting like taken by him like last episode or something. But that's, I mean, with everything going on, she isn't aware of that. But they're like, so I was wondering, like, I mean, I don't think he has the power to kind of contact her. He wouldn't know to get in touch with her like that. But that's why I was like, oh, maybe this is the real him, especially when they have that card game. And I love that it's like, he goes all in, and then Michael's looking like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, he's all in. I'm like, I love how you're making me go all in with my chips and not yours. But they ended up winning. And also the fact is he wanted the ring, and that's why I was like, wait, is this the real Clyde? Is that ring? Because it's just her abuela's ring, and it's not anything like, yeah, it's just a ring that's sentimental to them. But I was like, is there actually some like alien thing behind it? It's like, no, it's all, once again, giant metaphors for everything. And I kept being like, all right, so who's going to be the bad guy? Who's going to be the person in this who ends up being the bad guy behind it all? And it's like, of course, the metaphor would be it's Liz versus her dark side, which is interesting on so many levels, considering on a just macro level of the show. It's like, well, it's interesting that she would interpret things this way, especially considering they had to deal with that, the aftermath of that last season with Max and Joan. So it's interesting, like, oh, the good version, the bad version. I mean, that was more so the clone situation. This is more so like her personality, like her darker side versus her lighter side, kind of like fighting for her soul, type of thing. But the version of herself, Liz, is the villain of the story. She's a personification of the drug. The side of Liz that wants to use a drug that could do so much, And then obviously the sheriff represents like the good guy. The side of Liz that wants to protect the people she loves. That she ended up realizing, right, I'm falling into the same habit I have been before, where instead of relying on the people that I'm closest to, I end up pushing them away and kind of trying to do everything on my own. But it's like, no, we're a family, so we're going to do this together. So she had Maria, her dad, Sanders, Michael, and Heath back her up when they try to save Max and Rosa. And then, obviously, villainous Liz is telling Max that, like, right, you do kind of hold us back, that you are, like, the biggest obstacle in our lives. Like, Liz or Tekka, like, the name could be out there so much more if it wasn't being bound to you. And he's, like, basically like, oh, I can protect you. It's like, wow, how can you protect me when you don't even have your powers? Like, you can't even protect yourself. And Max, it still comes back to that, because it's also his biggest insecurity, because there is a part of him that is unsure. Like, he was so he acted like he was so sure before, but it was a decision made out of fear. And decisions made out of fear are never the best decisions, yes, fear should inform your decision, but it shouldn't be the sole reason you make any choice. And Max made his decision 100% out of fear. And I think Liz's choice, ultimately what she makes, is ultimately made out of fear, which we'll get to that. There is love involved in that, but that fear is what kind of drives and motivates that decision that, you know, a lot of people have made. And especially Max and Liz's case. And I think that's such an interesting thing of like both of them making choices without really consulting the others. They're thinking about the others, but like at the end, their fear is just kind of being the thing that makes them go like, no, I need to do this. So I think it's interesting that Max did it first, and now the shoe was on the other foot, and now they're both going to have to course correct going forward to kind of make up for this, you know? Because at the end of the day, it's like we're both going down our paths, and we're both doing what we believe to be the right thing. Because in this world, obviously it's a mindscape, but, you know, Liz has powers, and it's like, you know, because of the drug, it gives her, like, essentially alien abilities. I did like that she ended up turning to Allie inside of her head. And it's like, Allie's the, I guess, the more, like, middle side of her brain that knows, like, what's up. And it's like, of course you would manifest your consciousness, the person that's kind of, like, giving you the riddles, but also pointing you in the right direction, kind of being your North Star, would be Allie. Like, it's a fun, I mean, obviously with everything Shivani, and also like what Allie means to you in general, which once again, it's like, now we have Liz and Liz on screen together, which is so dope when you actually think about it in the grand scheme. Like, outside of this show, it's like, right, Liz from the original series, and now Liz from the reboot, just kind of like talking, it's like, there's levels of meta-ness to it, not just within the confines of the show, of like what, you know, what Allie means to Liz, but also just, once again, what they are, like, outside of the show and everything. I even love that thing when they went to go take care of Clyde and rescue Rosa and Max from the other Liz, her evil magical twin. That it's like, all right, she's like, Poppy, you go that way. He's like, it's what's it, Deputy Machete when we're at work, Mija. I'm like, I love it. And also Sanders, I saw him kind of like doing something behind his back, and I was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, you guys are, the rest of you are just kind of like cow wranglers or wranglers or whatever, like you're not the ones actually in the fight. But sadly, Clyde ends up killing Sanders, and then he ends up killing Heath and Michael. Despite everything, it's like, because he kept coming back over and over again, because he's a metaphor of the shoe, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it's like, there's always going to be something else. There's always going to be trouble around the corner. There's always, that's what he represents, this unending battle. It's like one thing after another, after another, after another, after another with them. Like, they'll never be able to kind of escape this. It will always be kind of a part of their lives. And, you know, Liz not really know how to, like, handle that. And so with Allie's help, she kind of finally realized, she thought like the whole thing was like, oh, I need to rely on my family. It's like, no, it's something deeper than that. And at the core of it all, it's like, right, it's about the ring, it's about Max, and realizing she finally knows why she didn't accept Max's proposal. Because for her, it's her fear. Because Max is saying, like, regardless of what, like, evil Liz is saying, it's like, she obviously still loves me, and so she's, because that part of you is still there, irregardless of which side of you it is. It's still a part of you, like our love. But she's coming at it from a perspective of, like, I'm the one that's more logical. Yeah, I might not have these abilities out there in the world, but I'm going to be 1,000 times smarter. And you, time and time again, your biggest concern, your biggest worry is that building a perfect life with Max, that you might not be able to protect him. Because the whole point was to see her family, everyone she loves and cares about, killed in front of her one by one, is to make her realize, like, what if I'm not ready? What if I'm not smart enough? What if I'm not prepared enough? What if I get blindsided again and I'm not able to protect the people I love? I won't be able to save them this time. And it was just kind of, it made her feel like when Rosa died and when Max died, that kind of helplessness. And it's like, she doesn't want to feel helpless like that anymore. And evil Liz is like, right, I'm the side of you that makes those decisions. You know, it's, I'm the one that has to make the tough calls. I'm the one that needs to be strong. Like, yeah, she's the one that, I think that side of Liz that she kind of buries, especially when it comes to her science side, where she can kind of get a little lost in it. I think, like, the villain Liz can kind of, like, fall into that category as well. And when given the opportunity, Liz is like, no, like, there's no guarantee, like, it'll all work out if we go out. So, like, if I surrender to the drug, the mist, because if I do, there's a chance that, like, obviously my brain will degenerate, like it won't be a good thing. But it's like, yeah, but as smart as we'll become, it'll be child's play to kind of fix that. So what are you going to do, Liz? And we never got a resolution to it on the out. I'm also like, and the fact is, I think it's interesting that Liz doesn't remember, but Max does. I think that's so interesting. But I guess it's like, right, she was the one tapped with the drug. But you think, because even Heath was like, yeah, it is weird. Like the Mindscape stuff doesn't, everyone always remembers the Mindscape stuff no matter what their circumstances are. Like Maria did and everything last season, so like, why wouldn't Liz? Because you would think like maybe it would ripple out and affect Max too, but maybe it's just with the concoction of everything that was happening inside of her. But then we get that reveal at the end where Liz gave in to the other side. It's like kind of almost like a Dexter thing of letting the dark passenger take over. It's like, right, my darker side, like I'm gonna let her take the wheel because I'm not willing to gamble with everything going on, the people she cares about missing. She wants to be smart enough and ready enough for any threat, especially in a situation where Max, and is back to it again, Max is kind of like, man, this is on me because I decided to neutralize myself, that I don't have my powers right now. Like, it puts an even bigger burden on Liz that she even has to think about this. I thought by taking away my powers, I was protecting everyone, I was protecting her, but I am putting myself in a position where I'm vulnerable, and, if anything happens to Liz, which I think might eventually, he'll blame himself, especially when he finds out that Liz went down this route, and it's like, yeah, it's for everyone's sake. But that's also that problem of like, yeah, we've seen time, I've watched a few shows where that's come up where like someone gets like super intelligent, but the problem is, probably more recently would be like, was it last season of the previous season of not season 8, maybe season 7 of The Flash, where Barry got extremely smart, but his emotions like got severed. So like he wasn't emotionally thinking, he was just thinking logically. I think Liz might be in that boat where it's like, right, all she'll think about is with her brain and not her heart. You need the combination of the two working in sync to be the Liz that everyone needs. This version of Liz probably won't be thinking with her heart. So she's kind of taking over for right now, and eventually, and the problem is the other Liz is probably okay with it in the grand scheme of things, but they're going to have to get her back eventually, because this version of herself is probably going to end up doing way more harm than good. So I thought that was kind of an interesting development, and I think eventually, once again, it's kind of playing into that whole thing of like, oh, Max and Jones, like, you never know which one is really like, oh, is this Max or is this actually Jones? It's like, it's that type of thing as well, to some extent. It's like, they've already kind of went through that once, and I wonder how long is it going to be before anyone notices or picks up that the fact is it's not Liz. Like, will Max not be able to want to see it? Because I think that's going to be the interesting thing, because Rosa blamed herself, because it's like, right, if I had honed my powers and stuff like that, if I had been better at it, maybe I could have seen this coming. But Michael was like, Max was by her side the entire time, and even he didn't see this coming. So I think this could kind of play into that a little bit. What I'm actually thinking of is Lucifer. Slight spoilers for Lucifer. Kind of like the Michael and Lucifer of it all, like Chloe being able to figure it out. I think we can kind of find ourselves in a similar situation where, like, Max might find out, but it does bring up other questions about himself and the choices. Eventually, he is going to take that cure. He has to. I'm just curious what the full circumstances are going to be leading up to that, So that's definitely going to be interesting. But I'm curious, like, how long are we going to do the dark side list? And once again, who's going to be the first person to know it? Is it going to be Maria? Because Maria is going to try and understand her abilities more, so maybe she might notice before Max does, and maybe that might concern him on that level too. Like, right, I'm by her side, I didn't notice. Like, no one picked up on it right now, because it's not like she's that different. It's just Liz, but it's probably going to be like, they're not going to notice until she starts making decisions and stuff, and then it's going to be like, oh, that doesn't seem like a very Liz thing to do. Like, oh, like, maybe we'll see stuff like that where it's like, maybe before Liz will hesitate to do a certain thing, but then eventually, like, she'll be like so quick to do it that it's like, yeah, that's not Liz at all. So we'll see how that plays out. And obviously, that's also going to get complicated because, like I said, I think she's going to be thinking more of her head than her heart, because it's probably like, yeah, I'm going to protect everyone, but if it means like sacrifices have to be made, like, the one for the many type of thing, she might be willing to sacrifice her student And once again, that might be that situation where this Liz, once again, thinks more of her head rather than her heart. And that might be the thing that kind of makes everyone go, yeah, that's not Liz. She decided to give in to the drug rather than be her, because even Max admitted he didn't, with the way he was facing, he heard the gunshot, but he doesn't know how it all, played out. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all that ends up taking us. We probably will get a little bit more Allie going forward because Kyle was looking for her while he was still in Mexico, but he was going to be on his way back too. So either way, we'll just have to wait and see where the next episode takes us. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.